Super. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
In philosophy concepts, principles, that we already said that nature as it is already there. There is nothing to train. To train is to able to be with. In order to be with, that means you must able to change. That means flow. So we are training to recognize, or we are training how to change. The quality of change. That means the quality of change is the first thing. So in other words, that the quality of change to be with, to know the truth. That means to know, that means is to understand. Everything still comes down to the understanding, knowing. Knowing is the things that you want to know, right? But the things that the problem is that knowing, how you classify knowing. Knowing, what are you knowing? So everyone, they say they know, of course. So the ultimate things that we want to know is where things are. Very simple. You want to know is to know where things are. Where things are is as it is. So in order to flow, in order to change. I mean to change, in order to flow, you must be able to change. So that means everything here, you see, you come back to, okay, where things are, to be with it, to be there. Then you can classify it as a present. So the quality of change, being able to change, you must be in neutral. Quality is the neutral. Right? Of course, there's a lot of conditions how to be neutral. Right? Then we talk about the present, then talk about you be there, talk about how to pay attention, all this. Quality as a neutral first. Quality as a neutral in order to change. This is the main training subject. Yes? No. Main training subject. The main training subject as a physical, neutral quality as a physical, we talk about, you can say fullness, oneness. It's a quality. It's a quality of neutral, as one, as full, as complete. Right? So in space, in order to full, you need to recognize 6 direction and 3 dimension. When you talk about 6 direction and 3 dimension, things start from center. Center of the reference. Center of the reference to train 6 direction and 3 dimension. So on touch, 6 direction and 3 dimension is the highest point and the furthest point to the mass. Or you can look at it on alignment, right? So you have a reference now on touch. How to feel that is the highest point to the mass. Because there's 2 references. Right? That is fullness. That's fullness field. In other words, that fullness field, the Tai Chi classified as the Peng energy, a defense energy, a defense point energy. So first thing is to recognize the defense point energy as a fullness point. Then from the fullness point, on contact, maintaining that point to do all other movements. That means maintaining that point of fullness energy as a defense point. All movement is only born correctly, in other words. Understand here?
No.
Huh?
No.
No. Okay, what do you not understand?
Well, maybe all of it, but I especially don't understand where you said the highest points.
Oh, spiritual energy.
Oh, the highest point from the center.
Yes.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
That means it's the highest point as spiritual energy. That means there's no gap that you can go in.
Okay.
Right? So that's why we train a lot of different ways to train. Like meat is one of the quality of a highest point. No, not highest point. That means a defense point. A defense point, you see? When you meet, it's a defense point. Right? But as a highest point, they need to have a reference with the max.
Yeah, so like there's a sphere, the center is here, and
Yeah.
the highest point is going to be
Yes.
the surface of the sphere.
Yes. Yes. That means if you are always meeting him in the highest point, that means then he cannot go in. He cannot pass through. Yes? When he cannot pass through, that's a defense point itself already. It's considered a defense already. Yes? So that is also a neutral energy. Because that neutral energy must come from, if a neutral energy must come from the 6 direction and 3 dimension to produce that fullness, to produce that defense point. If that defense point is not produced by 6 direction and 3 dimension energy, that is not the fullness point. No, that means that is not a neutral point. You see? A neutral point, that means you also can say the neutral point that is a junction point. It's a junction point. It's a junction point. That means they can go all directions. That means you can change all different directions.
So you have to have the 6 directions and 3 dimensions already going on in your body when you meet that highest point.
Yes, to
Right?
be that point. Alright, to be that point in order to consider the fullness point. To consider the neutral point. Alright, to consider a neutral point, then you can look at a lot of things. Okay, you must meet there, then it's a cross point, it's a junction point, it's the highest point, it's a pivot point, right? But sometimes the pivot point is only on the point of pivot. Understand or not? Then, if it doesn't reference with the mass, that is not the neutral point. It's just a pivot point. Yes? You see, then just a pivot point is not a neutral point. Okay. So we learned to recognize this fullness, highest point, as a neutral point that can pivot, that can rotate, right? Not only as a pivot point. All right? Yes.
So, in the languaging, you're saying there's many neutrals, but the highest point is our neutral point of reference. And it's the one point that we refer everything back to. But any pivot has a neutral.
Yes, every pivot itself is a neutral, but that point is a pivot point itself. But you must always reference to the mass and consider that's a neutral. Like a spider web have a lot of cost. Why the spider web in the center is a center neutral? Yeah, see, spider web, the build up all the junction point, right? But the junction center is really the neutral, right? But they have the relationship of this cross, this junction to get the information too. They have the relationship, but that is not the neutral one. As a whole, as a whole, it's not a neutral. Yes, as a whole, it's not a neutral. So that's why we said one big sphere is made out of all the small spheres, right?
Do you change the languaging?
No.
No, hold on. Just to emphasize the point, like you say, the highest point is the neutral point, is the highest point is the fullness point, is the junction, is the this, that. Is that just to highlight one particular aspect of the
One
same
aspect,
thing?
yes.
Okay.
Right? But to really has a neutron must relate with the mass. Right? Must relate with the mass. So only this field of this neutral, right? Then all other movement born correctly. That's why we said. Then sometimes in the language of Chinese, they call it a Tai Chi point. I call it a Tai Chi point. It's a balance point. Right? A balance point. A Tai Chi point, a balance point. So when you do yin, you must hold on the Tai Chi. When you do yang, you must hold on the Tai Chi. You see? Any questions? All right. So, fullness on point of contact, because that's why it's easier for us to recognize by training condense and open through the yang touch first, right? But you should have any touch. Any touch. That's why when we come to spinning, we go to yang, we go to this angle, this angle, this angle, all this direction. That point itself is a fullness point. You see, that point itself, every point is a fullness point. Right? So then that fullness point, right, then you can meet. Then we use the fullness point to meet as a reference. As a reference to know. When you meet with the fullness point, with the balance point, where you see the difference, where you know. But the problem here, I keep on talking about here, is that can your mind be there to see? Right? If the mind cannot be there to see, it's very hard because the mind keep on distracted, running away. Keep on falling back to the habits. Okay? So today, I will try to go back, try to learn to talk about 6 energy in 3 dimensions on the point on movement of condense and expand and feel. Right? Condense, big, small, big, small, big, small. Condense and expand. Movement of reference to the mass. Okay? Then with that point, then we explain a little bit more on that point. Holding on the point, how you flow on that. Holding on that point, how you roll and how you pivot. Okay.